Welcome to our podcast. Let's get high, besties.
1970s hitchhiking.
Okay, so this next story, it takes place in 1976. Again, 1970s. Prime
Basically.
serial killer time.
Right? Because when did Michael Myers take place? Like in the 70s too, right?
Was it? Okay, so a young woman named Marie Elizabeth, I think it's Benny. She went by Marliz. Marie Elizabeth. From Cleveland, Ohio. And she had a good life home, right, in her family. She's the second born out of 5. She's like a real well-known, well-liked young lady.
Okay.
You know? Mm-hmm. In school, she's that girl like that everybody likes. She's pretty, she's smart, popular.
I see you, Regina.
Not Regina though.
No?
She was nice.
Oh,
she's
she
like
was...
everybody.
Oh,
liked her. So she was more like...
She was Katie.
She was catty.
She was catty.
She was catty. So everybody loved,
Catty.
had good things to say about her, right? And they would describe her as being somebody, that everybody wants to be around. So according to her older sister, she wanted to get out of Cleveland and go on to become a movie star.
Mm-hmm.
In 1976, Marliz, she graduates high school, 18 years old, and she finds a job at a local, it's like a camera store, like a video store.
Like a Best Buy?
Like a Best Buy type thing.
Okay.
Right? She's working there. She meets this guy, right? His name's John. And he's her supervisor. They start dating. And he kind of lives in Ohio, but he kind of doesn't. So the company that they work for, they send him out to start working like at a different,
okay.
Yeah. So like whenever I had to fucking leave to go work over there.
In the middle of fucking nowhere. Like,
for real? I was like, what
that was like a whole other
hell?
fucking dimension because, bro, there was literally nothing around you. I was scared.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the last time I saw him. The aliens done came and took him.
Took his ass. So he was gone all the time, right? Because he had to go work. But his next plan was to move back to California, where he was originally from. The two end up falling in love, and they decide to get married. John proposes to Marliz, and he's like, "Let's move back to my home state, California." And Marliz, in the back of her mind, she's like, "California, that's where Hollywood is. All the movie stars are there. Like, let's fucking do it. A step closer to my dreams." So he wants to go. She's like, hell yeah. The two of them end up moving, to John's hometown, Chico, California. It's in Northern California. And Marliz and John, they end up renting an apartment in the downtown area. So according to Marliz's sister, she said that Marliz would often call and she was having like a little difficult time transitioning into a new life of like, the big city. I guess when they had first moved to Chico, Marliz and John, they like started arguing, like every fucking relationship. Nothing big, but they started having their fights.
They started bickering here and there. Bickering.
They ended up going to a local flea market, right? And while they're there, they end up getting into an argument. And Marliz is like, you know what? Screw you. Screw this shit. I'm fucking out of here.
She's like, watch it, John. I'll sell your ass for fucking
you don't fucking know me.
We are at a flea market. Don't fucking try me.
I'm not from here, motherfucker.
Take his ass.
Nobody knows me around here. Okay, so he ends up driving off, right?
He left her at the flea market?
Yeah.
So he sold her ass.
Well, yeah. So he ends up...
He's like, I dump your ass. And
right?
Took off.
He's like, fine, walk home, whatever.
You can walk home, bitches.
You can walk home, bitches. And he heads back to the apartment. He's like, she'll come walking back to, but maybe she just needs a little bit of time or whatever. So he's just kind of sitting there waiting for her to come back. And more and more time passes by and Marliz isn't walking through the door. So he's like, okay. John's like, no big deal. She's probably just needs her space. I'll let her cool off. Well, a fucking full day goes by. And by the end of day 2, he's starting to think like, maybe she left. He started thinking maybe she went back to Ohio, back to her family's. And she was telling her family how unhappy she was, right? Remember whenever she's telling her sister like that they're arguing or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, none of Marla's stuff was packed, right? Nothing was gone. Everything was the same. So nothing was really making sense. Like, why would she leave all her shit there?
Mm-hmm.
So now he's like thinking maybe something actually is wrong. So where the hell is she? Like 2 full days already go by. So then John goes to file a missing persons report. He tells them like right away the last time he saw Marliz, they had a fight. Which police, of course, like if you tell them, they're gonna put him as suspect number one. So they're like, you were probably involved, So police.
What are you telling us, John?
Right. They're thinking to themselves, like, you took this girl away from her family, moved her out here. You guys are getting into a fight. Then she disappears and you have nothing to do with it. Something fishy, like.
Something's not adding up, John.
Yeah. But it takes a little time and then they end up clearing him. So he's good. They declare Marliz as a missing person. She never showed up back home to Ohio. She just vanished. And after this, the case, it ends up going cold. So a year goes by and it's already May 20th, 1977. This is Eugene, Oregon. And there's a 20-year-old girl named Colleen Stan. And she's on the side of the road trying to catch a ride to a small town called Westwood, California. And at this time, it's the 70s, so it's normal to, be hitchhiking. Everybody's fucking hitchhiking, thinking that it's okay. Why wasn't there Ubers? She's your average 20-year-old girl from Riverside, California. Parents had divorced. Her dad ended up remarrying, and she ended up being the oldest of a big old blended family. Right?
A big old litter.
Since she's the oldest, they look up to her. Colleen turned 19. She ends up moving to Eugene, Oregon with friends of hers. So May 20th was one of Colleen's best friend's birthdays.
Okay.
And Colleen, she wanted to surprise her by showing up to her house in Westwood, California. That's why she was hitchhiking her ride. So on the morning that she was supposed to head out that way, she goes out to her car. It's dead. So at this point, she's like, I guess I'm going to hitchhike. She ends up getting a ride with a bunch of long-distance truckers, right? Who were able to get her all the way to Northern California, where she finally gets to a town called Red Bluff, right off the freeway, right? So the challenge for Colleen was to hitch a ride, right? East up onto the hills. So this would be a little harder for her because the few riders that she did get, they left her with an uneasy feeling. So which led her to just end up passing on some of the rides, and such. So she was just
no, thank you.
Yeah. So she's like, But then she gets this car pulling up to her, right? And it's a couple, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to ride?" With them was a little baby. She looks inside. And,
but they seem pretty safe. They got a kid.
It's a cute little family. Right?
Yeah.
Well, the one thing Colleen did notice was that the guy that was driving, he looked kind of dirty, but like he had worked with his hands or whatever. So maybe he had just gotten off work or whatever. So she didn't really think nothing bad of it. So she felt kind of safe. She ends up telling him that she's headed to Westwood, and wouldn't you know, this couple's headed to Westwood too. So, okay, let's get in. The guy, he seems super friendly, right? He's just asking Colleen a bunch of questions, right? And she felt comfortable, right, enough to tell him. Colleen tells the couple, that she wanted to surprise her friend for her birthday and that nobody knew she was coming. Why would you ever...
number one.
Yeah, why would you ever tell anybody that? I would never say that. So time passes by and they're all headed to Westwood, right? They end up stopping to get some gas. While the guy who was driving is pumping the gas, the mom and the baby go into the gas station to pay. And that's when Colleen takes some time to freshen up in the bathroom. And Colleen, she gets this overwhelming feeling. It's just a really strong feeling that she just needs to get the hell out of there. So when Colleen gets back to the vehicle, she gets into the back seat. That's when she notices there's a weird box in the back seat. And it wasn't there before. This box, it looked like it was handmade out of wood. It had a hole on one side of the box and 2 latches on the other side. So it opened up, right, like a suitcase. And she didn't really think much about it. The couple tells her that they're just gonna make it make a little quick stop before they get on the road. They wanted to make a quick stop because there's some ice caves or something. I don't fucking know what the hell that is, but apparently they wanted to go see these ice caves, right? So they end up turning off onto a dirt road. They pull right off next to a little creek. And the woman and the little baby, they get out of the car and they walk down the creek. Colleen ends up staying in the car and she's looking out the window and she can see the mom playing with the baby in the water. And she like realizes she doesn't know where the fucking guy went. Like the guy's gone. So she's looking around trying to figure that out. And right in that moment when she like starts trying to look where the hell he's at, apparently he comes over there, jumps onto the back passenger side of the car, and he's holding a knife to her face. Yeah. So this guy tells her like, if you do what I say, I won't hurt you. So he ends up tying her up. He grabs that box and puts the box over her head.
See, I didn't want to jump the gun. When you started describing it earlier, I was going to be like, are they going to put it in her fucking head? They're going to put it in her fucking head. I was right.
That's fucking crazy. Oh my, like, what the fuck? That's like some fucking Saw type shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So turns out the box was made just for that, to place over the head. And with this box over Colleen's head, she tries screaming, crying, but nobody can hear her because this box, whoever made it, had lined the inside heavily with a couple layers of soundproof material.
Oh my god.
So you could scream all you want and nobody's gonna hear you. Well, it only gets worse. So Colleen, she still has hope that the lady that was there and the baby, they're not gonna like this shit. Like they're not a part of this. Well, they come back to the car and they don't do nothing. Well, obviously the baby can't do nothing, but she doesn't do nothing. You know. Baby, goddamn you! How dare you?
How fucking dare you? You're in the car seat right
next to me.
Next to me.
How dare you? Goddamn you!
God, it's not like you have a fucking hard life. I'm in a box. You little bitch.
So they start the car, and the family continues on the journey. And they were heading back to the couple's home.
Where? Oh shit!
They were going back to the couple's home. Yeah. And once they arrive, the woman and the baby get out of the car. The guy grabs Colleen, takes her out of the car, walks her into the home, and then heads straight downstairs into the basement where nothing good happens. Nothing good. Once they get into the basement, this bastard removes the head box. And he blindfolds her in hopes that she would have no clue as to where she's at, right? Even though she's in the fucking basement. He ends up locking her arms onto two straps that were hanging from the rafters, from the ceiling. So like that. God. Yeah. And then he did the same things to her ankles from other straps that were from the bottom. So it was like an X shape with no like support underneath her.
Basically like hanging from her arms.
And that would lead for her to panic more. She's just flailing around. So Colleen also said that she actually could see through her blindfold, and she could actually see a photo from what appeared to be a newspaper, like a magazine. But whatever it was taped to the wall. The photo she saw was a woman in the same like type of bondage situation she was in. And she didn't know who it was or what the fuck it was. So he attempts to get Colleen's panicking and crying to stop. And the only way he knows how to do this is by whipping her. So he starts whipping her for about 10 minutes straight. And once he felt like he was done, he brings the box over so she can rest her feet. Such a good man. So Colleen, she said she was given a little break. She was able to once again peek from underneath her blindfold. And that's when she sees the couple that gave her the ride engaging in sexual relations right at her feet.
What the fuck?
While she's tied up. I don't know. Poor fucking Colleen. Like, yeah. So once the couple's finished, I guess the guy gets up and he ends up taking that box from underneath her foot, or underneath her feet again. Leaves her like that for about 10 minutes. After those 10 minutes, he takes her down and he puts her head back into that damn box. And what she doesn't know was that there was another box ready for her to use. So this other box, it's made specifically for her body. So it's like a body box. Yeah. He ends up getting Colleen down from the straps or whatever. Okay, so he places her into the large body box. He ends up chaining her wrists and ankles to this box. Because I guess inside the box there was like chains set up. So he chains her in it. They would leave her limbs slightly suspended. So it's like...
Again, like her body weight on her. Oh my god.
Yeah. Colleen's head is also still covered. So she's literally covered with the body box and the head box right now. She ends up spending the rest of the night in that box.
What was like the box? Like,
what do you mean?
What
the
shape or what did it have? Or
I guess it's just a box like that you can put the body in. And then it has like chains inside it and he chained her up in there. I don't know how to, because there's no like pictures of it or anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it just sounds torturous.
Yeah.
So the next day, the man comes down, right? He takes her out of the body box, and puts her on another handmade contraption. He had like a whole fucking torture chamber down there. Okay, so this next device he was bringing to the table was called the rack. He handcuffed her hands and her feet to this rack while her head was still in the head box, and he ends up leaving her there for a full day. I guess at one point he's like, hey, I should probably feed her. So he brings her some food, right? And she's like, not even hungry. Like, who the fuck is going to be hungry when they're in a box? Or after being being tortured. So since she's not hungry, she's not eating. This man is getting mad because he made her, all that fucking food. So he's like, what the fuck? Why aren't you eating my food? Like, how dare you not eat my food? So he ends up punishing her. He chains her back to the ceiling and whips her for not eating. And then afterwards, he puts her back onto the rack, and he ends up leaving her there for another 10 days.
Oh my god.
Yeah. 10 fucking days. Who the fuck wants to, like, live like that? Like, are you kidding? Colleen, she was completely...
I'm pretty sure it wasn't her choice. I'm pretty sure she was like, it sounds good this weekend.
I mean, she decided to get on that bus. No, I'm just
No, we're not.
Just kidding. No, I'm not putting that in there.
No, we're not.
Okay, so Colleen, she was completely naked with her head in a box tied to this thing for 10 days. Ugh. And then after these 10 days, goes back into the body box. And this is where he starts to like make a routine for Colleen. She was only allowed out of the box once a day for about 20 minutes. And that was to eat or to use the restroom. And he was watching her the whole time when she's out. And as a special treat, every once in a while, he would keep her out of the box for a little longer, maybe like 30 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was a nice treat. Mm-hmm. Only because he wanted to practice different bondage techniques on her, like whipping her with a handmade device, constricting her breathing, and he tried shocking her with an electric cord, submerging her completely underwater until she almost drowned.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And also burning her pubic area with a heat lamp.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Fucked up. And he would do this routine for 5 to 6 months. So after 6 months, Colleen, she had been whipped and tortured at least 90 to 100 times within those 6 months. And then after the 6 months passed, there was a triangular shaped box.
Mm-hmm.
And this box was made specifically to fit underneath the stairs. And this is where she was going to be living.
Like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So around this time, Colleen, she gets her first clue as to who this guy is. Because I guess during one of the torture sessions, Colleen spotted a belt, his belt, and the belt said Cameron. Also around the 6-month period, this Cameron guy was looking to shake things up. So he goes to Colleen and he gives her a piece of paper. And he's like, I need you to sign this, right? And she looks over the paper and she like realizes it's a slave contract.
How?
That he's trying to get her to sign. According to Cameron, this contract was backed by a legit underground society called the Company.
The Company?
Yeah, that's what it's called. And that's at least what he told, Colleen. So he explained to Colleen that the Company was like an underground organization, kind of like a cult. And he says like that he's a member of this company, and he was granted his own slave, which was
her.
Yeah. He also ends up telling her that the company members were everywhere, and that they're constantly watching the slaves. So she was being constantly watched for any sign of escape or, if you're trying to get away. She was only 20 years old, remember? So she's still young. She's like, her mind's still fucking growing, She's malnourished. She's physically diminished. And she believes him. Like, she's scared. Like, how the fuck is she gonna get away? Because now everybody's fucking watching. Or at least these people. That's what she thinks. These secret people.
Yeah.
And then that the guy, Cameron, that he had even told her that his wife was once a slave who tried to escape from her master and that's why her knees were so bad.
Oh shit.
I guess she was like that too. Because when she got caught, they damaged her leg so bad she couldn't leave. And then why the fuck is she there with him? If you know, like,
I mean, brainwashing goes fucking
God damn,
far.
how old is the lady? How old is this? Is the wife? That's what I want to know. So before she signs, she continues reading through the contract, and she notices that there's names on the contract. Colleen saw that her name was on there, but the guy, Cameron, was listed as Michael Powers, and his wife was listed as Janice Powers. Okay, so Colleen asked, I thought your name was Cameron. He ends up telling her that his name was Cameron, and his wife's name was really Janice, but they both went by the last name Powers within the company. So Cameron starts getting a little like, can you fucking sign the damn thing already?
Impatient.
So he's like, hey, you should really sign the damn contract. Because the company's watching you right now, he said. If you don't, you're going to cause yourself some bigger problems, he said. So she signs it. So this guy, Cameron, his name was Cameron Hooker. He was 23 years old. 23 years old. Oh my God.
This entire time, I'm like picturing this
older guy.
Like older guy.
Yeah. Like in his 30s. Yeah.
No, I was thinking like a 40s.
Oh shit.
Like.
I mean, not 23. That's what I wasn't thinking. Okay, so he was born in November, so he's a Scorpio. He's only 3 years older than, because Colleen's 20. His family had moved around a lot in his early years until they moved to Red Bluff in 1969. In 1972, when Cameron was 18, he graduated high school. And right after graduating high school, he got a job at a local lumber mill. So he ends up working there for a while. And then when he meets 15-year-old Janice, so he's 18 whenever she's 15. Jeez. She's 15, insecure, unsure, doesn't know anything. So he's seen that she has all this shit, and he saw that it was a perfect opportunity to take advantage of her, which he did. And also it made it a little bit easier for Cameron to try out all kinds of bondage stuff on her because she was willing to do anything to make him happy.
Who's the current girl or
Janice?
Janice.
Yeah, because she was 15. So he started this when he was, 18, apparently. But back to Colleen. It's 1978. And now that she's signed the contract, things seem to actually improve for her. I don't know how. First off, she's given a new name by Cameron, which is Kay. So now she's going by Kay. And she's allowed more time out of the box. So when she's out of the box, she gets to stay out for longer periods of time.
The new girl.
Yeah. Colleen.
K.
K. Special K.
Special K.
So she was allowed to be upstairs and do housework for them. And she was only allowed to call Cameron master or sir. And she had to call Janice ma'am. She also had to kneel, bow her head, and ask permission before doing anything.
What the fuck?
She was their slave. Up until this time, Cameron hadn't raped Colleen because one of Janice's rules was that he was not allowed to have penetrative sex with Colleen. But then that changes, obviously. So after signing the slave contract and becoming part of the household, Cameron was able to talk Janice into allowing him to have sex with Colleen. He would go on to tell Janice that the previous engagement is not working for me any longer. So he decides that he's going to rape Colleen in front of Janice, and she's going to watch. So he's just I don't know what the fuck is Colleen. What's her name's problem? Janice Ian Dyke. Because how the hell are you letting him do all this shit? You need a wife.
Or but you would think that your reaction of that happening in front of you, of grab a fucking chair, smack him, do something, choke him out, grab a knife, something, oh my God.
That's crazy. So apparently Janice couldn't take it. So after this, Cameron puts a pin in it and he's like, I guess we'll circle back later. So in April 1978, it's already 11 months that Colleen's been kidnapped. She's 21 years old already. Still being tortured, kept in a box. Janice and Cameron, they decide to downsize. So they're moving to a smaller mobile home. Apparently they were getting paranoid. They ended up moving to this new place that didn't have a basement. So instead of having a box in the basement for Colleen, he decides he needs to build a new box. And this time the box is like a coffin. It's like a coffin-sized box.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And he decides to put this one under the bed where he and Janice sleep. And he managed to build this box and put it into their waterbed frame.
I feel like I can't breathe just hearing that, man.
That's psycho. And then he said that this is going to be a more comfortable box.
Oh, okay. Like he's the one in there.
Right?
Like he fucking tests this shit out. Like, oh, okay.
It's just more comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. Colleen said that the only way she could sleep to keep her sanity while in that box was focusing on happy memories, like memories with her family, friends. And she said that her faith in God also kept her from giving up hope. And at this very time, Janice finds out she's pregnant with another baby. And in September of 1978, Janice gave birth in the bed with Colleen still under it.
Oh my god.
Girl.
What the fuck?
That's fucking... How the fuck... Being stuck in a box underneath someone's freaking waterbed for 23 hours a day. Okay, June 1980, Janice ends up getting a job because they needed extra money. When Janice was away, Cameron would let Colleen out of the box and to make him dinner and to wash dishes. Apparently, they were feeling more comfortable letting Colleen out and gave her like a lot more responsibilities around the house. Like she would babysit while Janice and Cameron were away at work. And moving forward a little bit, 3 years into Colleen's confinement.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Years?
3 years. It's crazy. So she still believes in this company. She's still scared. She still thinks that they're watching her and all that, right? So Colleen would spend most of her time just watching the kids and like being a fucking slave. That's basically what she was doing. And Colleen would say that this was actually some of the best times that she had with the Hooker family. And that the little kids, she loved babysitting them. And also they let her know that there was still good in the world through these kids. And that there was a little song, I guess, that they sang together. During that year, Colleen was now allowed to sleep chained to a toilet in the bathroom of the mobile home. So she wasn't in the box anymore.
Oh my god.
Also, there were very few restrictions placed on her. Apparently, Colleen would play with the kids and stuff and have her meals. She would even get to go for a jog. They started letting her.
I would have the first fucking chance.
That's what you would think, right?
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. But this is also the time when Cameron started raping her a lot. Apparently, Colleen estimated that around March of 1980, Cameron was raping her at least once or twice a week, and he also kept this a secret from Janice. So he would keep it a secret because Janice would get mad. Do you know what Stockholm Syndrome is?
Yeah, what those bitches have. That's what they fucking have.
What is it?
It's whenever they, I guess, become attached to the person who's doing all this shit to them, they start thinking of it as signs of affection. Mm-hmm. Like, they do that because, you know, like, they love them and shit like that. Instead of them seeing, like, hey, you're being manipulated. Hey, you're being tortured. Hey, this is not okay. You know, like, they become so accustomed to it and so okay with it that they start thinking that's, like, a normal thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so it makes sense as a survival tactic, I guess.
Yeah.
Colleen would later say that she told Cameron she loved him.
Oh my god.
Not only to keep him from abusing her more, but also because she was genuinely grateful for the little freedoms that he gave her that year. Cameron allows Colleen to contact her family. Her family had been through complete hell, obviously. Didn't fucking know what the fuck happened to her. She's disappeared without a trace. 3 fucking years later.
God.
It's sad, really.
Yeah. I feel like this is hitting me.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I need to catch up. Okay, so when Colleen had disappeared without a trace, after a few days, her roommates in Oregon, they began to worry, right? They contacted her friend in Westwood, the one that she was going to go see, remember? Mm-hmm. That she was going to go party with.
I already fucking forgot about the party.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. She was supposed to go surprise her. This friend told the other friends that she had never showed up. So her roommates, they call her father to tell him that they haven't seen Colleen in like days. No one was able to get a hold of her. So immediately her dad and her mom, they get into the car and they drive up to Eugene where what's her name was supposed to be. So they head up there and open an investigation with law enforcement declaring Colleen a missing person. They didn't have no body, no leads, no nothing. So Cameron, he allowed Colleen to make a few phone calls to her family in 1980 while he was
Imagine
there.
they didn't have that same phone number. Because, like, how did she get a hold of them?
Imagine.
Because, like, do you know my phone number?
Not by memory.
Exactly. Do you know anybody's phone number by memory?
Just my mom.
I don't even know my mom's phone by memory.
Mine's because it's easy.
I only know mine.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
You better.
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit, because I remember I got locked up and they don't let you look at your phone. So like have your one call.
Well, don't say that. Now I'm gonna be jinxed. I'm
But,
gonna get locked up.
Right.
I'm gonna start remembering my mom's phone
But
number.
I'm like, dude, thank God I like actually remember her number because I don't remember anybody's fucking number ever. But hers has been the same since. Oof. Okay, so
the person, did they even? I mean, because we're talking. This was what in 70 when she first went missing. 70 what?
1976. No.
Right, so it's not like they could like
1970.
call each other up and be like, "Hey, bitch,
Yeah.
she didn't make it. I can't track her Uber." You know?
Yeah,
like,
there wasn't shit. You couldn't.
Jeez.
That was a hard time, I bet. Okay, so she gets to call her family, right, in 1980. Once they heard from her after the 2.5 years of silence.
What do you even say?
Right? What the fuck do you
Hey,
say?
Mom, I'm fine, right? But
I'm
not
alive.
really. And also, is this man like right there?
He's watching. He's supervising the whole thing. He's watching her.
See, this is why I'm a big fan of like code words. Because I told my mom, I'm like, we need to have a code word. If something happens, and I say this to you, you know I'm gonna leave shit.
Yeah, because they could tell that she's, being guarded, like just from hearing her. So they come to a conclusion that she's in the cult. But they were still, relieved to hear their daughter, like, finally, and
that she
decided, So everyone just wants to remain calm and just everything okay, They want to make sure that their lines of communication was open as possible. They didn't want to push her away. In 1981, Cameron tells Colleen that he got a special permission from the company to take her and visit her family. So Cameron tells her that he had to put up $30,000 security deposit to cover the company's cost of watching Colleen and her family, but that she earned it. This motherfucker. What? I hate him. So he's like, if you want to see your family first, you have to prove your loyalty. Ugh. So she's like, okay, how do I do that? He hands her a gun, tells her to put it in her mouth, wait a little bit, and then pull the trigger.
I would have pulled that trigger so goddamn fast.
I would have pulled it twice, 3 times.
Right.
Until the bullet. She pulls the trigger. It was empty. In mid-March of 1981, Colleen and Cameron head out to Riverside, California. So he tells Colleen, the first thing we have to do is make a pit stop. We have to stop at the company headquarters in Sacramento. So she's like, okay, yeah. He goes on to tell her that she has to take a little lie detector test. So she's a little nervous because, remember, she believes that the company might kill her or whatever. So Cameron gets out of the car first and he goes into the building. She's just waiting in the car, right? And then he ends up coming back and he's like, I have great news. You've been such a great sex slave that they've waived the test required.
What the fuck?
Just the fucking words that come out of this guy's mouth.
Why it doesn't like click for her.
So she believes this, right? She's like, wow, I'm so glad. Because she was so nervous over it. The two end up making it to Colleen's family's home and she's finally reunited with her family, right? Her family obviously thrilled to see her, but they were also kind of cautious because they didn't want to scare her off. Cameron actually leaves her alone with her family for the full day. So while he's away, Colleen tells her family that Cameron's actually her boyfriend. She would later say, of course, she wanted to tell her family the truth, but she was genuinely afraid that the company would not only kill her, but also kill her family. So that's why she didn't really say the truth. Cameron eventually comes back to take Colleen back home, right? They say their goodbyes and the two leave. Well, after the visit, Cameron ends up kicking it into high gear, and he felt like Colleen was getting a little too comfortable with her family's visit, ends up punishing her, and puts her back into the box full time.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. From March 1981 to May 1984, Colleen would spend most of her time under that bed in that box. 3 fucking years, 23 hours a day in that fucking box. At some point, while Colleen was away, Cameron had added a little bit of decor inside her box. There was a photo of a young woman. So Colleen didn't recognize this person. She didn't know who this person was. Like if she was from the Hooker family or. So in 1982, a few new developments happened. First, it comes to Janice's attention that Cameron was having sex or raping Colleen numerous times, and she wasn't happy with it because that was her own role. And second, Cameron had a new trick up his sleeve to control Janice and keep her in her place, which was the Bible. Cameron would start quoting and using the Bible, specifically the Old Testament, as like a justification for enslaving and raping Colleen. He told Janice that it was her wifely duty to follow her husband's lead. Can we get another?
Oh my god.
I need 2 drinks for that one. Yeah. In 1984 of January, Colleen had more freedom again. He starts slowly letting her out of the box at night so she can have a luxury of sleeping in the bathroom floor. And once again, the family really needed more income. So in May, they actually allowed Colleen to get a job as a housekeeper in the Red Bluff area at a place called King's Lodge, which was a few miles from home. And she didn't escape. Sometimes Janice drove her to work, and sometimes Colleen would just ride her bike there. So she had a bike. Colleen, as soon as she got her paycheck, would hand it over to Cameron. And sometimes if she was doing real good, he would let her keep $20. So shortly after she gets a job, they're getting more income, and Cameron gets this new idea that he wants to have a threesome. So Cameron was trying for years to make this happen, but Janice would never budge. So he starts bringing the Bible into the game, and he's like hoping to convince her. And Colleen at night would read the scriptures, and they started like bonding over the Bible, Colleen and Cameron. So Cameron's trying to tell Janice, like, see, it's just like the story of Abraham. The story goes, Abraham and his wife Sarah, they were old and they didn't think they could get pregnant. So Sarah tells Abraham that he could have sex with their handmaid, and if a baby is made, it would be handed over to his wife, and they would raise it as their own. So I guess like he was trying to like say, since they did that, then he could do that. So Janice isn't stoked about it, but she is afraid of Cameron, and she doesn't want to find out what he would do or what would happen if she said no. So at this point, something shifted in Janice's mind. And nobody knows why, but maybe it's because she's actually realizing that her reality isn't okay. Cameron had been grooming her from age 15. So yeah. So at this point, Janice is now 26. She's already the mother of 2. And Cameron starts telling her that he's really wanting to marry Colleen. And Janice is realizing, like, no matter how much she agrees to things, he's going to want more and keep wanting more. Right? So it's now finally hitting Janice. So in July of 1984, Colleen and Janice, they started attending church together. And one day, Janice went up to the church pastor and shared with them how they had been living for the past 7 years. So she had told him everything. Mm-hmm. But you know how it's like, when you tell them, they can't really say nothing because it's under whatever. What the fuck is that? Like, why can't you fucking tell somebody? The pastor ends up giving Janice some advice, saying leave him, get out of there, let Colleen go, and then goes on to tell her maybe to report it to the police. The pastor didn't do anything. On August 9th, Janice took Colleen to her job at the hotel, where once again, she goes back to the church to visit the pastor. He again urged Janice to leave, and this time she actually listened. She went back to the hotel, found Colleen, and told her for the very first time that there is no company. So the 2 of them went back to the home, decided not to tell Cameron anything, especially about him lying about the company, because they were both afraid of him. The next day, Janice and Colleen waited until Cameron had headed off to work. And once again, he was gone. Janice and Colleen took the children and headed straight to Janice's parents' home. They got the hell out of there.
Good.
From there, Colleen was able to actually call her own parents and told them that she just needed help getting out So she wasn't able to tell them everything.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like, I just need money to catch a bus home. So they ended up wiring her some money and she was able to catch a bus the next day. One last thing Colleen did before leaving was call Cameron. I don't...
A veces no se
How?
puede con esta gente.
Oh
No
my
sé,
God. Okay.
no sé.
You know what? During that call, she told him that she was leaving and like there's nothing he could do to stop her. According to Colleen, Cameron just cried a lot. The next morning, Colleen had arrived at her family's home in Riverside, California, where she finally was able to share her entire story. And after 7.5 years in captivity at the age of 27, Colleen was finally free. 7.5 fucking years later of torture and fucking... Girl. So you would think that Janice was free, right? And she's now healing and whatever. But Janice was 15 whenever she met this guy. So she was, she's been in love with him for how many years?
Like 11 years or so.
Oof, it's been too long. So she had no self-esteem, no, 2 kids with this guy.
She went back.
She was just unsure and overwhelmed and scared, so she went back. Mm-hmm. But this time, when she went back, he was like really trying so hard to make it work with her, I guess, because she was able to convince him to destroy the torture devices and get rid of all like the evidence that was kind of like gonna put her in a whatchamacallit too. Janice couldn't eat or sleep though. She was having panic attacks. She was scared too at the same time, but she always thought that he was gonna like go back. There was something in the back of her mind that made her think like he's gonna go back to this. So Colleen had spent all her 20s with those people and developed almost a family bond with them. So with that in mind, Colleen still kept in touch with Janice and Cameron even after.
Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's sad and crazy, but they had check-ins. Janice had begged Colleen to please not turn Cameron in.
What the fuck?
Because he's the father to her kids.
The fuck?
Right? Like, what the fuck, bitch?
Y la otra pendeja.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I won't say anything. Shut the fuck. Oh my.
Yeah, because she agrees to not turn him in. Her own family initially encourages her to turn him in. But Colleen is just so happy to be free and just wants to put like the whole thing behind her or whatever. But in 1984, November 1st, this would end up changing. Janice ends up going to the mobile home to see if Cameron had destroyed the rest of the items that she asked him. And he didn't. He never did. Cameron was 31 at this point. He could start over again if she fucking left him. So the following week, she ends up telling a friend what's really been going on at home. Right. And this friend somehow was able to get through to her to just get away from him, right? And something switches in her head again. And Janice is finally ready to leave, ready to go to the police. So Janice tells the police in order to get full details that she would need immunity. And police, they end up granting it. So now that she has immunity, she can't and will not be, tried for any of her own involvement in the whole abuse with Colleen. But there was something else Janice was ready to let go of. Not only does she tell the authorities about what Cameron did to Colleen, but she also mentions another time when the two of them maybe had kidnapped, tortured, and accidentally killed a woman.
Oh my God. And
this took place just a year before they kidnapped Colleen. And the woman's name was Marliz Spinaki. Remember Marliz? From the beginning of the story. Marliz was the first girl that went missing, and then we went up to Colleen. From Cleveland, Ohio. Remember, she ended up getting with her supervisor. Remember, they went to California. She wanted to be a movie star.
Right. Yeah.
And then she ends up missing because she ended up walking home by herself. Well, they were the ones who killed her. So Janice went to tell the police that the couple was driving one day and that they spotted Marliz walking down the road. And I guess Cameron had pulled over, offered her a ride, and they both noticed that she seemed very upset. Remember, she got into the fight with her fiance. So they offered her a ride. Marliz gets into the car, and Cameron hops into the back seat and puts the head box over Marliz. Janice said that the two drove Marliz to their house, where Cameron suspended the woman from the basement rafters, just like Colleen with the, as an X-shaped form, whatever. The major difference between Marliz and Colleen is what actually saved Colleen's life. Marliz just would not stop screaming. So she was screaming her head off in the car and in the box, and then she was screaming all in the house, right? But the screaming was something that Cameron couldn't handle. So he, in an attempt to keep her quiet, tried to sever her vocal cords with a knife. And when he did it, he killed her. So Janice told the police that they buried Marliz's body in a shallow grave in a nearby state park. So she ends up taking the police out there where she remembered Marliz being buried, but there was no body. And it was either the wrong spot or she was thinking that maybe Cameron had moved it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In hopes that the police don't think she's lying, Janice ends up telling them that Cameron for sure has photos of her that he kept as a trophy. This photo had been the one that Colleen had in the box.
Yeah.
It was Marliz. Mm-hmm.
The fuck?
So during the trial, Janice and Colleen were the star witnesses. Everything was depending on them. There was a ton of hard evidence presented in the court, but since both had simply walked away after all these years, the case really depended on their testimonies to explain it to the jury. When Colleen took the stand, she appeared to the jury as flat and unemotional. And they were a little thrown off by this because they were like, why is she not crying? Like, why does she have no emotion? Well, the court admitted into the evidence over 100 pieces of physical evidence, including the head box. There were tons of photographs of Colleen in bondage, a copy of the slavery contract, the couple's bed with its concealed box underneath it. There were tons more, but even with all of this, it was still an uphill battle. Not only was it tough for people, again, to wrap their minds around all of it, many kept asking the same question, like, why did Colleen stay so long? She had many opportunities to leave. There was one point where Janice threw Colleen under the bus, too. She took the stand. She told the court that back in March of 1981, she told Colleen she could leave and that she could be free. And Colleen told her that God doesn't want me to go yet, so I'm not leaving. Colleen denied it. Colleen denied that conversation ever happened, though. She said that it wasn't true. So that made everybody else confused because it's like, y'all are both coming in to say this, and then
now y'all are turning against each other.
But one thing that really did get through to the jury was the expert testimony that they had brought in. And this expert testimony walked them through how someone could possibly ending up choosing to stay with their rapist or kidnapper,
Yeah.
A psychologist had explained to the court how Cameron's abduction of Colleen it isolated her. It was humiliating to her, keeping her naked, removing her from daylight, controlling her food and water intake, controlling her urination and
everything.
Yeah, for everything. Threatening her family, threatening to sell her to another captor, threatening her with the company. That's just too much. Cameron, apparently he takes the stand in his own defense. In his testimony, he says that he did those things, but it was all consensual, and Colleen enjoyed it. He said that he didn't release her at first because he was afraid that she would go to the police. But there was one point where he tried his best to set her free. He tried so hard, but he just couldn't get rid of her. Colleen chose to stay because she was in love with him. And after the 2.5 days of deliberation, the jury found Cameron Hooker guilty of all charges, basically. Good. So, yeah, he was finally sentenced to 104 years in prison. And after sentencing, the judge even stated that Cameron was the worst psychopath he had ever dealt with. Poor Marliz. The saddest thing that Cameron was never charged with her murder, despite Janice's confession. Without a body, they could not nail him with it. And without a confession from Cameron, there was no hard evidence ever linking him to the murder of Marliz. So that case still remains unsolved, even though Janice told him.
Confessed.
Yeah. So Janice ended up changing her name and also changing her children's name. And she went on to become a social worker. I don't fucking know how these bitches Like, how are you a fucking social worker?
Yeah, I don't trust her.
The fuck? She also got married and her life has gone on. Over the years, Colleen has done a lot of healing. She sustained long-term injuries from the abuse. She seems to have found some healing by sharing her story and participated in a bunch of different interviews and documentaries. So she's also counseled women who survived various forms of abuse. So, yeah, that was the story of Colleen and Marliz. It's like, whoa. Everything was just fucked with that story. Because it kind of makes me think of like, damn, in my life I've done like stupid ass shit where I could have been a victim of like
all this
things.
shit. I know.
So it's like, oh my god, thank God I wasn't, but some people just aren't that lucky.
Okay. I'm going to take you to March 21st of 2010.
Okay.
We are in Mexico, right?
This is the story of Paulette Guevara Fara.
Okay. So, March 21st, the Guevara family, that was the dad, named Mauricio, the little girl, Paulette, she was 4 years old, and the other older sister, I'm fucked up, I can't remember her name. I don't remember her name.
Well, her older sister.
Well, her older sister. They had gotten back from a little family trip, and whenever they got home, the mom wasn't on the trip with them. The mom had already been home, or I think she came home like a little later, and she ended up staying up late so she could put her daughters to bed so they can be ready for the next morning. So the mom's the one that puts the girls to bed, right? The following morning, March 22nd, the nanny comes in, starts her routine as usual, and walks into the little girl's room to wake her up and get her ready for school. The only thing is she can't find the little girl. She removes the bed sheets. She's looking for the little girl. They're like, what the fuck? She checks under the bed. There's no little girl. She checks in the closet. No little girl. Again, she puts the sheets from the bed. The little girl, she had a verbal condition. She couldn't really speak very well, and she had trouble with her movement. She was like a special needs kid. A mobility and speech development issue is what she had. So the nanny's like, fucking, she's a little girl, she can't really go that far. Like I said, she checked under the bed. She took, they had on her bed so she wouldn't fall off the bed. They would put her in between pillows and everything. She goes to the closet. She goes to the restroom. She's going through the house. So she can't find the little girl. She goes to the dad. Like, sir, have you seen Paulette? I can't find her. I already checked the room. I checked the restroom. I checked the closet. Like, did she sleep with y'all? Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, the mom had put her to bed. But maybe go ask her. Maybe she got in bed with her. I don't know. So she goes and she wakes up the mom. She's like, hey, is Paulette here with you? She's like, no. What's going on? She's like, we can't find her. She's like, what? What do you mean? Like, we can't find her. I already checked her room. I already checked everywhere on the house. Like, we can't find her. We were wondering, if she was here in the room with you. So they start checking everywhere. They can't find this little girl. So they call the dad's sister. She comes over, and they're like, oh, they fill her in on what's going on. They can't find the little girl. So the tia decides to call, the police department. Like, hey, we can't find my niece. We don't know where she's at. We already locked her around the house. So yeah, the tia, this is a very well-known family. They're well-known in in the politics world. And, I don't know if their grandpa was a politician or he had something to do with the politics or something, but they're a wealthy family with, connections in the fucking, in that world, so the tia's like, we're gonna call the cops and then we're gonna put out a search, that we're looking for the little girl. And at that time, the grandpa was, which it kind of all comes back together. So I'm a little high and it's gonna seem all over the place, but so they're gonna put out a flyer at this, when they're in this house. Ya vino la tía. to come and, be there for them, so there's already another person in the house. And then the mom's best friend comes over to console her, like, oh, your daughter, whatever, whatever. So it's like another person in the house. So they're deciding to make this poster, to put on the news, because they're like, we can go to the news and we can go to like all these, like we can plaster her fucking face everywhere. Like she's gonna be all over Mexico and this and this shit, right? So the best one's like, you should do it this way, like make it from her point of view, like please help me find my way home. She's like, you can put a picture of her and where to contact them and whatnot. So they're working on that. Meanwhile, this one TV network, right? They told this girl like, hey, there's this case of a missing girl in this part of Mexico or in this part of town. Like, look into it. And the girl's like, not to be mean, but like, what the fuck is a priority? Or not to, be rude, but like, why is this one more important than all the other little girls that are going and missing in Mexico? Like, I'm not saying that, what's the point, but like, ¿qué tiene de importancia tanto that this little girl needs to be like plastered everywhere? Like we get stories about little girls being missing like every fucking day, and they're not doing anything to like show their faces, to like let people know these are the little girls that are missing, or look, this is what's going on with all the missing little girls. Like, why are you being so adamant that I need to go check out the story of the little girl? They're like, oh, well, the grandpa is known with the person that is running to be the next president of Mexico. They're like, so they need, like, this isn't just... So yeah, fail, but like, this little girl is an important little girl, because she's of like high up people and shit like that, so that's the priority that this little girl, be put. Like the whole Gabby Petito, that they made a big deal, put her in basically all the fucking news stations and articles and shit. Like all you saw for like all that time was just like this girl and how they can't find her or whatever. And they're like, there's like a shit ton of girls going missing, especially girls of like color. And I don't even give a fuck. Like, why is this bitch so fucking important? Not to be rude, but like, why is this girl deserving more attention than the thousands of girls that are going missing every fucking day? So anyways, she ends up going to the house, and because again, these people are very well known, so they start doing interviews like, oh, y'all can't find the little girl, whatever. So this girl from this news network is able to get a meeting with the mom. So she's going to do an interview, right? Where did they do the interview? In the little girl's bedroom. That was the last place they saw a little girl, so it makes sense, that they would be sitting in her bed. And and you can actually find the videos online, like on YouTube, where they're both sitting on the bed and they're going, like, they're touching, she's talking about the little girl and like what was wrong with the little girl and everything. And her and the reporter, like I said, they're both sitting there and they're like, oh, well, this is where she sleeps, and they're like recreating of how the nanny came in that morning and moved the beds, and how she, was like messing with the sheets in the bed, and how she looked in the closet, how she looked under the bed, and they can't find her. They don't know what happened. It also shows like the mom, she's like, how she was the one that put her to bed the night before. What was her routine? So she's going through her routine and she shows these, pajama bottoms and, like the little clothes for the little girl. She's like, and then I just put her to bed and that's it. I went to bed and, in the next morning, she's telling me that they can't find her, that they don't know where she is or anything. So this is all happening like in a matter of, I think it was like 8 days. They do that interview. And the people, they bring the cadaver dogs to see if they can smell anything or any clues or whatever the fuck. Yeah. So those people already come in, right? And again, they were doing interviews in the house. So there was the people from the interview that were in the house. Traen a los perros y están oliendo todo. They're like, we don't know what's going on. Like, we can't find any clues really other than Like she disappeared out of thin air. Like there's no way of tracing. Like the cameras weren't working, or they weren't letting them. Yeah, I think they were saying that they weren't working because they live in like this building, this like condos. So it's like a big building, where obviously it's a gated community,
Yeah.
or like, a place where you can is not easily accessible to the public, So, and mind you, the little girl again, she had mobility issues. So for her to sneak out of bed through their house on an elevator all the way down, leave the building, like without anybody seeing her, or without cameras catching any of that, like, wasn't it weird to anybody? Like, did anybody see a little girl, in the middle of the fucking night, and nobody thought, like, what is this little girl doing out here? Like, but the fuck is going on, So everybody's scrambling, trying to find clues about the little girl and what happened. So they find out that the night before, well, yeah, the dad and the both daughters had gotten back from a trip. The mom was the one that put her to bed. So they're like, well, then maybe the mom has something to do with it. Let's look into the mom. They start airing out her dirty laundry. And it turns out that I think like a day before, or like 2 days before, her and her best friend were in some place, like in some hotel, like a golf course place thing. And they found out that there had been, like, I think they said 6 men that were there. And they're like, you're a married woman. It's like normal for her to go out with her best friend, but like it's just you two in this room with like 6 guys. Like, what's going on there? Like, is she trying to get away from her family? Like, is she trying to get a divorce? Like, is this what was causing the divorce? Like, are the parents fighting? Like, what's going on? Like, and they question her about it. They're like, yeah, we were out there, we were partying. I don't see what that has to do with anything with my girl being missing. Like, so fucking what? I went to party with my best friend, and we were, doing whatever besties do on vacation. I mean, we've never had that kind of vacation. Are we living wrong? No.
Are we?
So they're like, what the fuck is going on? The FBI ends up being involved because it just, so many things were going on. Like, it became such a like big news. They're like, no, we can't find any clues, like nothing, we can't move forward, or like we're fucking stuck. We don't know what's going on. And even the reporter, she's like, what the fuck, like there's no, what's going on with the story, like what's happening, okay, so since all of this is going on, and obviously like the bestie wants to be there for the mom, and they're like, no, she can stay here, like it's fine. They're like, but where is she gonna stay? Like, we already have other people staying here, like, they're like, oh well, she can stay in Paulette's room. So they're like, oh, okay. So the best friend starts sleeping in the little girl's room, because I mean she's gonna be there with the mom, and there's literally like nowhere else for her to sleep. Why not sleep in the little girl's room? Like, it's empty, there's like nothing there, it's not being used. So the best friend is staying there. So whenever they're like asking questions, or like whenever the FBI gets involved, and they're like, okay, let's open this fucking bitch up again because algo no cuadra, like, what do you mean there's a little girl and she's missing out of nowhere? They can't find her. They go to her bed, they check under the bed, they check in the closet, they check, again, this is a massive fucking building. What do you mean to tell me there's no sign of what happened to this little girl? Let's open this bitch back up and go through it all over again.
So they had closed the case?
They didn't close it, they were just stuck.
Oh, okay.
They're like, we don't know. So here comes these motherfuckers, and they're like, all right, we're gonna go
through it again.
Like, y'all were here, we're gonna fucking go through it. Everything all over. Let's start from fucking day one. So they start with the what do you call it? The interrogations,
Oh.
right? And for being questioned, then the nannies were like, because they started kind of suspecting of the nannies. They're like, y'all are the ones that are with the girls.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, like maybe someone said, take her, we'll give you money, whatever. They're like, no, like we love this little girl, like we wouldn't fucking do anything. But if we're mentioning like weird feelings, if you will, I'd look into the mom. So the cops are like, what? And then nanny's like, yeah. Don't you think it's weird that I'm looking for the little girl and I'm checking all over her room, and the last person that put her to bed was the mom? And whenever I go tell her, hey, Pauletta's missing, she kind of like has trouble kind of like waking up, or so it's like, hey, did you hear me?
Yeah.
The little girl's missing. And then she kind of like wakes up like, did you check over here? Yes. Did you check over here? Yes. I checked basically everywhere, which is why I'm here, and I'm asking you, since you were the last person that put her to bed. We were just wanted to check if she was in here in the room with you, or she was in the closet, and that you're the last fucking person that I can possibly think to ask where the fuck is this little girl. Like, yes, obviously I fucking checked everywhere, bitch. What the fuck do you think?
Yeah.
Obviously the nanny was more respectful than that. I'm not. But yeah, she's like, yeah, I looked for her.
Mm-hmm.
She's telling the cops that after they're looking for the little girl and everything, the mom was basically just sitting in one spot, and she was just like chain smoking. Like, she didn't seem like, oh my god, my little girl. Like, she was just sitting there like, like in deep thought and just chain smoking. Which, I'm not a parent. I couldn't begin to imagine what it would be like to not find your kid.
Yeah.
So I can't say that's not a normal reaction. Everybody reacts differently. But the nanny was like, I just think it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
She's the mom. She's the, and even the dad. Like, look at the fucking dad. Do you think this motherfucker looks like he's scared or like, what the fuck? I can't find my daughter. Like, look at them. They both look pretty fucking calm to me. You should check into them. So they put these motherfuckers in hotel rooms.
Okay.
They're like, we're gonna be
the parents.
Yeah, the parents and the nannies.
Okay.
And they're like, y'all are gonna be staying here for a while. We're gonna check out the house. We're gonna bring in the dogs again. We're gonna bring in everybody to like examine every fucking inch of this house. In the hotel, basically, they bugged the place, and there's a leaked audio of the mom telling the older daughter, you have to tell them that we don't know where she is, we don't know what happened, that she can't say anything, or they'll think that they have something to do with it. And that the little girl's like, but she's like, no, just don't say anything. You can't say anything. If not, they're gonna think that we have something to do about it. So all of this like shit is like, again.
Wait. Was this audio during the investigation? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, so who had bugged it?
That's what I don't
know.
I don't know if it was like the Mexican police or again, there's people coming in and out of this house because this all kind of happened like during 8 to 10 days. There's people coming out of this house. There's people like doing interviews like in the little girl's room. Like, so who knows who really came in the house, and bugged the place, or.
Well, how did they find this audio?
It got leaked.
Oh.
So everybody's questioning, like, again, what the fuck do you mean? This little girl, they can't find her. Like, look at where they live. Somebody has had to seen this little girl. Mm-hmm. She would be so fucking out of place. Again, in the middle of the fucking night, a 4-year-old like in this
Yeah.
fancy ass neighborhood, like
That has
somebody that
problems
has
moving.
security or like some type of, you know, surveillance of some sort. Like, so again, since it was all over the news in Mexico, it was like a constant thing. Like everybody was talking about it and like trying to find clues or like trying to like figure out what happened.
What's going on?
So while all of this is going on, a video gets leaked of the forensic people being in the little girl's room, and they're like moving the bed and everything, and you can hear one of them say, we found her, but she's like severely beaten. Like there's bruises all over her, like there's blood, like there's, you know where they found her? Wedged between her mattress and the edge of the bed. So the way that her bedroom or the bed was, it was like it was like a, what do you call it? The bed frame, like a wooden thing, right? So it was like this, and then it was like her bed, and they're saying that they found her here. Like there was a spacing here that the mattress wasn't big enough to fill because they had gotten like a, I don't know, like a different one or whatever. So they're saying that they found the little girl right here in between the blankets. So whenever the forensic team comes and they're like checking the room and everything, and they check it, they're like, she's right here. Like she's, dude, she's like, they beat the fuck out of this little girl.
What?
Like something's not adding up. Like what the fuck? Like, so that video gets leaked and people go fucking crazy. Like, what the fuck do you mean? This little girl was there the entire, you're fucking telling me this little body was there throughout these 8 days that we did interviews, that the trajeron los perros twice. Like there's someone sleeping in that fucking bed.
How did I not smell it?
What do you mean? What do you mean that the little girl was right there? What was the cause of death? Asphyxiation.
What's that?
She basically rolled off the bed onto that, and she suffocated herself, being wedged between the blanket and the mattress and the bed frame. She needed like a little thing to breathe at night, so they're like, she knocked it off. They would tape it to her, so she knocked it off, rolled to that side of the bed, got wedged between the mattress and the blankets and everything, and she was there for 8 days. Let's take it back to the first morning. Whenever the nanny came, what did she do?
Check the whole bed.
She checked the whole bed. She took off the cobijas. She checked under the bed. She made sure, you know, whenever they're doing the interviews, what does the nanny do? They're recreating how she came in the morning. And I'm telling you, you can look up the video and you can see the nanny making the bed. She's putting her hands between the mattress and the bed frame, you know, like putting the sheets, you know, like fixing the bed. And she's putting her hands like in between that. You don't think she would have fucking felt like the little girl? And you can see her going all around the fucking bed. The best friend, a full grown length woman in this child's bed, she couldn't feel anything there, or it didn't fucking smell.
Yeah, I don't get
like,
that part.
Los perros, they weren't able to.
How could
the
they
bird,
not have...
like, because.
So what do you think that they put it there after? Or?
They find the little girl. They do the autopsy that she suffocated. The people, again, this was all over Mexico for days. This was the news. Mexico was going fucking crazy. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, that was the reporters. Like, I sat on the fucking bed. What are you telling me? Like, I was fucking there. There's something that's not, what is going on, you know? So the dad starts blaming the mom. The mom starts blaming the dad. The dad's side So the family starts blaming the mom. They don't allow her to go to the funeral. The mom is like, se hace un pinche pedo, like in the media. The mom against the dad and blaming each other and, you know, what they did to the little girl and this other shit. And people are like, so did one of y'all do something? Like, what happened to the little girl? Like, what happened with the video? Like, you know, because it shows, like, what the body looked like. They're like, what do you mean? That where do the bruises come from? Like, where does the blood come from? If she suffocated, like, why is she beat the fuck up? Like, did y'all do something to her? Did y'all kill her? Like, what happened to this little girl? Where was she that nobody saw her wedged between the bed? And the bed was being made every single day that this person slept in it. So what happened to the little girl? Throughout, like, this whole thing, the best friend is trying to be there for the mom. But the family and the nanny described her like she wanted the attention. So she was like, do it like this, do it like that. Like, if you say this, you know, like you'll win the heart of like the people, and they're gonna search for her even harder, and you know, like do like kind of like telling her how to act, like you know, about her missing child. And they're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, after all that happens, and the parents divorce, and you know, they go on their own way. They bury the little girl. The best friend goes on and writes a book about her experience with the little girl missing.
Wait, who
The best friend.
That bitch. What the fuck? I don't get how the fuck they didn't smell her.
How did they not feel her? Is my...
I mean, what I'm thinking is, was she in the front part or the back part? Like where the headboard is, or where the
feet are?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
That don't make no sense. I was thinking that she was in the head part. Maybe, I guess that would be a reason why they didn't. What the fuck? So nobody ever found out if the dad or the mom. They were both blaming each other. They both beat the hell out of her and killed her.
That's what people think. They just don't know where they had the body for 8 days. Because again, this little girl was 4 years old. How big could that bed be? Who fucking knows? Only they know. And they can't check her, like they can't do like an autopsy because they cremated her like a few years later.
Shit.
So they're thinking that because they were probably frustrated and tired of having to take care of the little girl because of her disabilities, they got rid of her. Because remember, there's the audio of the mom telling the little girl that she can't say anything, or they think that they have something to do with it.
So they got away with it.
How is it that, yeah, basically. But there is a Netflix series on it. I liked it.
What's it?
It's called The Search.
The Search?
Yeah. It's in Spanish, but like you can put, you know.
Okay.
Hi besties, Evo and Ray here, just popping in to say
thank you to the audience that's been listening so far. We hope y'all enjoyed season 1.
We have some exciting new stories for this coming season. In the meantime,
stay high, besties.